So, welcome everyone. We thought we would kick off a debate around project management and the various subjects connected with that. We obviously, as an organisation, pride ourselves on our project management capability, but we thought we'd open up a debate to a wider audience and get your view of the world as to what facets of project management are important. This is subjective, of course, so everyone will have a different view. But I thought myself, as Mike Hord, as the commercial director of Opticore, and Karo Bonas, who's head of project management, we would kick off this debate and see what you guys think. This is a subject that I guess is being debated in lots of organisations at the moment. Some have adopted earlier, some are on that journey, some have arrived at the other end. But there's an ongoing debate around the delivery methodology, whether that be waterfall, whether that be agile, or a hybrid of those two. Specifically, though, I guess zooming in an area that we deal in, which is infrastructure projects. Can you use Agile in infrastructure delivery?
That's a loaded question, Mike. I'm not going to lie. So, I mean, traditionally, infrastructure projects, they're always, from when I used to deliver them back in the day, they always used to be planned in a waterfall sort of sequential standard, in terms of a project life cycle, design, procurement, configuration, all the way down, to UAT, OAT, and then the operational handover of it. I think as the technology evolved, coming from working with infrastructure, and its movement to cloud, code deployment, etc., rather than just bare metal, working on with physical appliances, to stuff that isn't physical, is virtual in essence. I think the agile methodology was more appropriated when it came along, because you deliver something, and then what would happen in an infrastructure waterfall delivery would be there'd be a requirement to do final testing, and that would always cause, could come be rushed because it's near the end of the project. And then when you come to deploy, there'll be bugs within that code and the infrastructure. And I think that didn't play well to the waterfall methodology. So introduce an agile, more iterative approach where you test, iteratively through the process of deployment of that infrastructure. It worked better because, the end goal was at the end of the implementation through UAT, OAT, there was less bugs, because, an agile methodology was adopted for software and code deployment against the infrastructure. That's where I could see a hybrid model working. And I think, most part, as we move to cloud and software delivery, software-defined networking, it probably does work to have a waterfall approach for deployment of infrastructure, but coincided with an agile approach for code deployment, where there's a requirement for, software deployment against the infrastructure. Again, so building on that, we have infrastructure today that's purely virtual. So building up fabrics over software-defined networks. I think you can't really deploy that in a waterfall methodology. Personally, from what I've worked with and what I've seen across our organisation, as well as our clients that we work with, there will need to be an iterative approach, a sprint, exercise to be able to work effectively, fail, remediate, deploy, sort of, I suppose, approach to those individual projects.
So I guess what I'm hearing is that, there's a place for waterfall still in terms of planning. There's a case for using some of the agile methodologies, in terms of sprints and daily stand-ups and an iterative approach to delivery. So these days, I think it's hybrid, isn't it? I think a lot of organisations, I mean, some that we deal with are still very much, I guess, old school and are very much waterfall, Prince-driven
Mm.
methodologies. Others are at the other end of the scale and are trying to work exclusively using agile methodology. For me, I think that there's a few barriers to that, to working in an agile, purely agile methodology in the infrastructure space. I
Right.
take your point around, the adoption of cloud and virtual technologies. But for my money, you still can't partly deploy a firewall. Either you've deployed it or you haven't. So there's
Yeah,
certain aspects of infrastructure delivery that need to work to the old school methodology,
absolutely.
in my opinion.
Yeah, because they're binary. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
You're
I
right.
guess it's whatever works, right? So, if it's a highly complex, multi-streamed program of work, then there might be certain areas that Agile works very well in, and infrastructure and sorry, Waterfall works particularly well. And I guess it's just having that ability to identify what is going to work best in terms of delivering that project. Ultimately, it's not being purist about how you deliver it.
Of course.
We're measured on what that deliverable is and
Yeah.
how we've done from a quality perspective, a budget, a time perspective. So it's bringing all of those things together to find the best way of getting across the line in a quality to a quality standard, I guess.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. Absolutely. And, we'd never encourage one methodology over another. It is subjective to what works. I think where you see today's industries moving faster, technology, is being introduced at a very, quick pace. Agile does seem to favour in those environments, but
Mm,
equally, at the end of the day, there's always going to be infrastructure that's required. There's a physical box somewhere, isn't there?
absolutely.
And that's where waterfall will still play its hand.
So I guess what we're saying is there is no hard and fast on this, right, Kara? I'm sure some of our viewers may have fairly strong views on that. I've certainly, in the PM community, I know of various positions that are held. Be interested to see what people think, Kara, because it
Absolutely.
is a subject that is being discussed and debated in lots of our clients at the moment. So let's see what people think.
Yeah, I'd encourage responses against that one, because I think opening up that debate and seeing people as application, is something will be good. That will be very informative for us.
I think so.